Inside the gilded gates of Buckingham Palace, time operates differently. While the rest of the world has automated its daily routines with smartphones and digital assistants, the British monarchy relies on a living, breathing machine composed of hundreds of individuals. This is not merely a staff of cleaners and cooks, it is a preservation of medieval hierarchy where specific, often bizarre duties are assigned to highly specialized roles. Some of these titles sound like they belong in a fantasy novel, yet they are held by real people drawing real salaries or holding prestigious honorary positions today. The machinery of the crown requires human gears to function, and some of those gears have been turning in the exact same way for over 500 years. Imagine a workplace where a job description involves counting birds on a river, winding over 1,000 mechanical clocks by hand, or playing a bagpipe beneath a window at a precise minute every morning. These roles are not just ceremonial relics, they are legally binding positions that maintain the constitutional and cultural fabric of the sovereign's life. To the outsider, they seem archaic, perhaps even absurd. But within the royal household, every strange title serves a purpose, connecting the modern monarch to the lineage of kings and queens who claim divine right. From the handling of silverware to the management of swans, nothing is left to chance. We often look at the royal family as the face of the institution, but the hands of the institution are the ones doing the actual work. These courtiers operate in the shadows, adhering to protocols that would baffle a modern HR department. They are the keepers of secrets, the guardians of tradition, and the executors of the sovereign's will. Today, we are pulling back the velvet curtain to examine the strangest, most specific, and historically loaded jobs that are still being performed in the 21st century. This is an investigation into the workforce that keeps the crown from slipping. Number 10. The Grand Carver. In the era of Henry VIII, the fear of assassination by poison was a daily reality for the monarch. Every meal was a potential death sentence, and the preparation of food required a chain of custody that was practically military in its precision. The Grand Carver was the final line of defense. This was a nobleman of high rank whose sole duty was to carve the king's meat at state banquets. He wasn't just a server, he was a shield. While the threat of arsenic in the roast beef has diminished in modern times, the role of the Grand Carver persists as a hereditary honour, currently held by the Earl of Denbigh and Desmond. The duty today is purely ceremonial, yet it speaks to the intense ritualism of royal dining. When a state banquet is held, the Grand Carver does not simply chop meat, he performs a choreographed dissection of the joint, ensuring that the slices are uniform and presented with the elegance befitting a head of state. It is a reminder that the monarch does not serve themselves, nor do they engage in the mundane mechanics of eating without assistance. The existence of this role maintains the visual language of power, where even the act of portioning food is elevated to a high-ranking aristocratic privilege. Number 9. The Master of the King's Music. Most modern governments have a Minister of Culture, but the British monarchy employs a personal composer. The Master of the King's Music is a role that dates back to the reign of Charles V in 1625. For centuries, this position was a lifetime appointment, serving the sovereign until death. It was essentially the musical equivalent of the poet laureate. The job description is deceptively simple: compose music for significant royal occasions. However, the pressure of this role is immense. Whether it is a wedding, a jubilee, or a funeral, the master must produce work that captures the national mood and fits within the rigid constraints of liturgical and royal tradition. In 2004, the rules changed slightly, making the position a 10-year fixed term to ensure fresh creative blood enters the court. The current holder of the office isn't just writing background music, they are crafting the soundtrack to history. When you hear a fanfare at a coronation or a solemn piece at a state funeral, you are hearing the work of this specific office. It is a job that requires the holder to subordinate their own artistic ego to the needs of the crown, creating art that serves the institution rather than the artist. Number 8. The Royal Horological Conservator. Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle, and the Palace of Holyrood House are home to some of the finest antique clocks in the world. There are over 1,000 timepieces in the royal collection, ranging from musical automatons to towering grandfather clocks. They do not run on batteries, and they do not sync to the internet. They are mechanical, temperamental, and require constant physical intervention. Enter the Royal Horological Conservator, a job title that effectively means the keeper of time. This is not a ceremonial role. It is a full-time, labour-intensive profession that requires a master's level of engineering skill. The scale of the task becomes apparent twice a year when the clocks change for daylight savings. The conservator and their small team spend an entire weekend manually adjusting every single clock across the royal estates. Some clocks in the kitchens are kept 5 minutes fast to ensure food arrives on time, while others in the staterooms must be precise to the second. If the conservator fails, the entire schedule of the monarchy, which runs on military precision, could theoretically collapse. It is a role that battles entropy every single day, ensuring that the symbol of continuity never literally stops ticking. Number 7. The King's Bargemaster. For centuries, the primary highway of London was the River Thames. Kings and queens did not travel by carriage through the muddy, sewage-filled streets. They travelled by royal barge. The King's Bargemaster was the commander of this logistical operation, responsible for the safety of the sovereign on the water. Today, the monarch travels by Bentley or helicopter, but the bargemaster remains. He commands the Royal Watermen, a team of 24 individuals chosen from the ranks of professional river workers who still earn a small salary for their service. You will see them at ceremonial events, recognizable by their scarlet livery, which dates back to the House of Hanover. Their duties include escorting the crown jewels when they travel from the Tower of London and rowing the royal barge, the Gloriana, during river pageants. While the practical need for river transport has vanished, the bargemaster represents the crown's dominion over the Thames. The role is a living link to a time when the river was the artery of the empire, and the monarch's presence on the water was a display of naval strength. Number 6. The Serjeant at Arms. This title sounds like a military enforcer, and historically it was. The Serjeant at Arms dates back to Richard V and was originally a personal bodyguard equipped with a mace to bludgeon anyone who threatened the king. Today, the role has evolved into a strange hybrid of security and parliamentary ritual. The Serjeant at Arms is responsible for order in the House of Commons, acting on behalf of the Crown. If a member of Parliament is suspended or refuses to leave the chamber, it is the Serjeant at Arms who is called upon to physically remove them, armed with a sword. The most visible duty involves carrying the ceremonial mace, a heavy gold-plated staff that represents royal authority, into the Commons every day. Without the mace present, Parliament cannot legally meet or pass laws. This means the Serjeant at Arms is literally carrying the legitimacy of the government on their shoulder. It is a job that balances quiet dignity with the potential for physical confrontation, serving as a reminder that the polite debates of democracy are ultimately underpinned by the physical force of the Crown. Number 5. The official harpist to the Prince of Wales. This position had vanished for over a century. Queen Victoria employed a royal harpist, but the role fell into abeyance in 1871. It was King Charles III, then the Prince of Wales, who reinstated the job in 2000. This was not just a whim, it was a calculated cultural move to emphasise the importance of the harp as a national symbol of Wales. The official harpist is usually a young, accomplished musician who performs at royal residences and attends the prince during visits to Wales. The role is distinct because it is specifically designed to promote Welsh culture within the royal household. Unlike the Master of the King's Music, who serves the entire monarchy, the harpist is attached to the heir's household. The musician is expected to perform at private receptions, adding an ethereal, ancient atmosphere that a playlist simply cannot replicate. It demonstrates how the monarchy uses job titles not just for function, but as diplomatic tools to maintain relationships with the different nations of the United Kingdom. Number 4. The Swan Marker. By ancient law dating back to the 12th century, the British monarch owns all unmarked mute swans in open water. This was originally a measure to protect a valuable food source, as swan meat was considered a delicacy at royal banquets. Today, the king does not eat the swans, but he still counts them. The Swan Marker is the official tasked with organising the annual census known as swan upping. Dressed in a scarlet uniform, the Swan Marker leads a flotilla of skiffs up the River Thames for 5 days every July. The duty involves lifting the swans from the water, weighing them, checking them for injuries, and ringing them for identification. It is a conservation role wrapped in medieval pageantry. The Swan Marker also advises organisations on swan welfare and investigates incidents of swan poaching. While the title sounds whimsical, the legal power behind it is absolute. It asserts the sovereign's ownership over the natural wildlife of the realm, a subtle reinforcement that the land and its creatures are ultimately subjects of the crown. Number 3. The Piper to the Sovereign. Most people wake up to a digital alarm or a radio. The British monarch wakes up to bagpipes. The position of Piper to the Sovereign was created by Queen Victoria in 1843 after she visited the Scottish Highlands and fell in love with the sound. She decided she wanted a personal piper to play for her every morning, and the tradition has never stopped. Every weekday at 9 a.m. sharp, the piper stands beneath the monarch's window, whether at Buckingham Palace, Windsor, or Balmoral, and plays for exactly 15 minutes. This is one of the most intimate positions in the household. The piper is one of the few staff members who has consistent, unscheduled proximity to the monarch in a private setting. They are not just a musician, they are the timekeeper of the royal morning. The piper travels with the king, ensuring that no matter where he is in the UK, the routine remains unbroken. It is a surreal juxtaposition of a rugged outdoor instrument being played in the quiet, carpeted corridors of royal power, serving as a daily reminder of the monarch's connection to Scotland. Number 2. The Gentleman Usher of the Black Rod. Known simply as Black Rod, this role is central to the state opening of Parliament. The holder is a senior officer in the House of Lords, appointed by the Crown. The job is famous for a single defiant moment of theatre. When the King commands the House of Commons to attend his speech, Black Rod marches to the Commons chamber. As he approaches, the doors are slammed in his face. This is not an accident. It is a ritual symbolising the independence of the elected Commons from the monarchy. Black Rod must then strike the door 3 times with his ebony staff to gain entry. The role requires a figure of imposing authority, usually a retired senior military officer. While the door slamming is the most visible part of the job, Black Rod is responsible for security, access, and maintaining order within the House of Lords precincts. It is a job that physically enacts the tension between democracy and monarchy, requiring the holder to be the target of a symbolic rejection every single year. Number 1. The Keeper of the Privy Purse. At the top of the list is the role that makes all the others possible. The Keeper of the Privy Purse is essentially the CEO of the monarch's finances. The title sounds like someone holding a small bag of coins, but in reality, this individual manages hundreds of millions of pounds in assets, including the Duchy of Lancaster, which provides the sovereign's private income. This is a job of immense power and secrecy. The keeper is responsible for paying the salaries of the household, maintaining the royal estates, and balancing the books of a family that lives more expensively than any other in the world. The Privy Purse historically referred to the money the monarch carried for personal spending, but today it encompasses a vast portfolio of land, investments, and property. The person in this role must navigate tax laws, public scrutiny, and the complex distinction between the king's private money and state funding. If the Privy Purse is mishandled, the monarchy faces not just bankruptcy, but political crisis. It is the engine room of the royal firm, proving that behind the velvet and the gold, the most important duty is still balancing the ledger. These roles, from the Swan Marker to the keeper of the Privy Purse, are not merely eccentric footnotes in a history book. They are the active working components of a system that refuses to modernize its soul, even as it updates its technology. The persistence of these titles reveals a fundamental truth about the British monarchy. It draws its legitimacy from continuity. By keeping a Grand Carver or a Royal Piper, the institution asserts that it is not a temporary political office, but a permanent, living heritage that stretches back through the centuries. When we see a man in a red coat counting swans, or hear bagpipes under a palace window, we are witnessing the performance of stability. In a world that changes at a frightening pace, these rituals offer a sense of permanence, however strange they may appear. But it begs the question, do these ancient roles protect the dignity of the crown, or do they trap the people who hold them in a gilded cage of performance art? Is it tradition, or is it just an elaborate theatre that has forgotten the audience left long ago? If you enjoyed this deep dive into the weird and wonderful machinery of the royal household, hitting the like button helps us uncover more stories like this. It tells the algorithm that you want to see behind the curtain of history's most secretive institutions. And for more investigations into the hidden world of the aristocracy, make sure you're subscribed. We have a video coming up on the dark history of the Tower of London that you won't want to miss. I'll see you in the next one.